Everyone, please take your seats. The program is about to begin. Everyone, once again, please welcome Chair of the Economic Club of Chicago, Sean Connolly.
Welcome back again. Welcome back. I'm Sean Connolly, Chair of the Economic Club of Chicago, and we are all joining today to hear from our guest speaker, Kevin Warren, President and CEO of the Chicago Bears. Welcome, Kevin. Before we get into it, first it is my pleasure to introduce the dais tonight. As I call their names, I'll ask each to stand and remain standing until the introductions have been completed. Please hold your applause until all have been introduced. I'm going to begin on my far left. Lisa Duarte, founder and CEO, Point of Difference Strategies, and partner, Croak, Fairchild, Duarte & Berries. Judith L. Toland, VP, Global Audience Marketing, and Head of Chicago Office, Meta. David Baldwin, President of Business Operations, Chicago Fire, FC. Andrea Zopp, Managing Partner, Cleveland Avenue, LLC, and Director of the Club. Philip B. Clement, CEO and President, World Business Chicago. Bob Reiter, President, Chicago Federation of Labor and Industrial Union Council, AFL-CIO. Laisha Ward, author, C-suite leader, board member, speaker, and member of the Programs Committee. And Brett Hart, President, United Airlines, and member of the Executive Committee. And Deborah A. Cafaro, Chairman and CEO, Ventas Inc., and past chair of the club. And now to my far right, Laura Barres, VP Merchandising, Strategy and Growth, Ulta Beauty, and chair of the Young Leaders Committee. Luke Saunders, founder and CEO, Farmers Fridge, and member of the Forums Committee. Marcus Anthony LaBeouf Sr., Executive Vice President, Legal Affairs and Human Resources, Chicago Blackhawks, and affiliated entities. Ashley Duchessois Joyce, Chairman Duchessois Capital Management. And Jeff Albee, Chief Financial and Investment Officer, Adolph Coors Company, LLC, and member of the Programs Committee. Michael Reinsdorf, CEO and President, Chicago Bulls. Claire Babineau-Fontenot, Chief Executive Officer of Feeding America and first Vice Chair of the club. And Suzanne Yoon, founder and Managing Partner, Kinsey Capital Partners, and Women's Advisory Board member of the Chicago Bears, and Director of the club. A round of applause for this distinguished group. All right, and now on to our program. Kevin Warren is a good swimmer. Now, that's not the sport that most of you think of when you hear his name, but it is the one that got him to the basketball court in high school and college, and then into football's front office. When Kevin was a young boy in Phoenix, he was in a serious car accident that left him in a full body cast, unable to walk, and with no options for physical therapy, except the pool. So he swam. Then he walked, and he eventually ran onto the basketball courts at the University of Pennsylvania and Grand Canyon University as a star guard and forward. He went on to get his MBA from Arizona State University and his law degree from Notre Dame before becoming a practicing attorney and an agent. He spent 21 seasons in the NFL, including running business operations at the then St. Louis Rams, Detroit Lions, and as COO of the Minnesota Vikings. And there he was the highest ranking black business executive in the NFL prior to becoming the first African American to run the Big Ten. So in 2019, Kevin was named commissioner of the 126-year-old athletic conference, one of the most storied college sports, where he led the negotiation of the largest media rights deal in college history at $7.2 billion, and expanded the Big Ten to include the integration of USC and UCLA. But the exciting news is that in January of last year, Kevin became one of ours, and he was named the Chicago Bears president and CEO, only the 5th in team history, and only the 2nd without the name Halas or McCaskey. Pretty amazing. So now, with the Bears' revenue ranking in the middle of the pack for the 32 NFL teams, and a promising young core anchored by the #1 draft pick now sporting a Bears jersey, it is a good thing that Kevin is still a strong swimmer, because he's going to need it to move quickly at what he and others have described as an inflection point for this great 104-year-old franchise. So before we welcome Kevin to the stage, let's watch this brief video on the Chicago Bears. All right. All right, well, thank you for joining us, Kevin, especially on opening night of the NFL season. There are serious NFL fans in the room, so some of you I know are going home because you've taped the game, so no telling the score during this event tonight. People want to go home and see it from the first kickoff, because we love the Bears, but we love the NFL. So Kevin, let's start with your journey. You start every day at 4:30 in the morning with a morning prayer, followed by 30 minutes of silent meditation where you lay completely still. And apparently you've been doing this since you were around 11 years old. So tell us what inspired this morning ritual.
I mean, fortunately, I grew up in a household of raised by two parents, very disciplined, highly educated, but they were focused on instilling into us a heart of gratitude, and they were prayer warriors. And if you look at my history, even prior to my parents, you know, I have my grandmother, Ramona Padilla, is from Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico. So I have an excuse why I like tequila so much, so I'll go on record with that. But she snuck across the border, met my grandfather, and who was a soldier at Fort Huachuca. And there's a little hole in my heart because I never met him, because he left my mother's family when she was in 8th grade and left, allegedly moved to California and somewhere in South Carolina, so I never got a chance to meet him. So I think about him all the time, Elliot Mosley. And then on my dad's side, I had a grandfather who owned the first drugstore in Phoenix, 2nd grade education, but he was a porter in a hotel. So every time I go to Phoenix, I go by the Lures Hotel because that's where he worked. True story, they said he worked 17 years straight, 7 days a week, had emphysema, never missed a day of work. And so I think that combination of my grandparents, watching them raise the family, education was number one. Number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, they told all of the kids, I'm the youngest of 7 kids, that's how we would be able to make it out of our neighborhood. And so back to why prayer is just a heart of gratitude. I am so grateful every single day to be able to do what I do with the people that I do it with, to live in this great city of Chicago. And I'm a very emotional person, not out of sadness, but out of joy and gratitude.
Amen to that. Well, speaking of gratitude, I mentioned it in my opening remarks, but I would like you to tell us in your own words, what impact did being hit by a car and seriously injured while riding your bike as a child have on you and the outlook in your life?
Well, that's the first time I recognized the difference between being hurt and being injured. That was an injury. My parents, again, back being disciplined, I was the youngest of 7 kids, only kid at home. They both were working. And they had rules, even when this was pre-cameras in the house, or at least I don't think they had cameras in the house, but they made me think they did. But we got up, we showered, we made our bed, we took the dog out, we picked up the dog waste in the backyard, we vacuumed. My dad was neurotic about, he would love for you to rake the carpet, shag carpet. Silliest thing ever in the world, but we did it. And so it was a normal day in June of 1974. Because we had to get all our chores done before we went to play. And my parents were both at work, and I got on my bike to drive to the school to play with some friends, and heard a loud screech, and I said, sounds a little bit close. But then when the impact, happened, and I blacked out, I flew 30 feet, landed on the ground, broke my femur, compound fracture, a lot of internal injuries, other injuries. And then that's when I really recognized the fragility of life. I recognized truly that angels do exist, because I should not have lived. I remember when they took me to the first hospital. It's never a good sign when they take you to a hospital and a bunch of people come around and look, and especially when they bring young interns, when they want them to see certain things. And then they said, we can't treat you here. So they took me to another hospital. But I say that that's really when my day began, because up until then I was a normal kid. And for all of you who have young kids who are around 10 and a half, if you can imagine them going through that. And so then I spent the next year, in the hospital with traction, pins in my leg, and I thought it was over then when they took me out of traction, but then the doctor said the fun begins now, we're gonna put you in a full body cast. So I was in a body cast all the way up to my chest, all the way down to my right toes, a piece of wood in between, and then down my left leg. So when I say I've been flat on my back, I did. I lived that way. Had to go to the bathroom in a bedpan. And now that I think back, my parents, they almost had like a timer on me. They would go to work. I would be at home by myself. I mean, when you think about that now, anything, I could have choked, the house could have caught on fire, anything could have happened. And then they would have neighbors come in and kind of change my bedpan. And then I have an aunt who I just deeply love, sister-in-law really, Dory Warren. She was a nurse, and when she got off her shift, she would stop by. But that's how I lived. And so that's why I think I love food so much. I love not only the taste of it, but the camaraderie of it, because I couldn't do that for a while. And so that's when I made my mind up that if the good Lord spared me to be able to walk, to be able to run again, I spent the majority of my settlement to build a pool in my parents' backyard, because I was determined to not only get back on top, but to make the world a better place.
And you still swim today?
Yes.
That is amazing. Well, tell me quickly, you've had many examples that I highlighted in your bio before where you've been the first of many things in your career. And knowing what you know now and being the first and achieving some of these things, especially after overcoming such adversity, What would you tell a young Kevin Warren about that journey?
I would say to embrace it more. And, you know, my mom said something to me, she said a lot of things to me that as a child, I thought it was her just saying things to keep me structured. But now as you get older, there was always a meaning into it. And she would always say, you know, one thing about being at the top, you know, it's lonely. So you need to get your mind right to be able to work in loneliness. Because if you're a person that needs to be around a lot of people, it's tough to get to the top. So you got to work in loneliness. But she said, although it's lonely, but the view is amazing and you can see so much. But she would always challenge me is, I don't want you to be one of those people that gets on the elevator, if you make it to the top, who pushes the red button, that no one else can come out. I want you to get that elevator packed and bring as many people with you. And so that's something that's important.
And you told me one of the first things you did when you joined the Bears is you went out and you met every single employee. Yes. That's a big undertaking. What was the effect that had on people?
I mean, I think the effect, I believe the employees appreciate it, and a lot of our employees are here, and again, I'm going to do all that I can. I hope you laughed today, and I want you to think, and I'll do all I can not to cry, but it says so much. You know, the thing of the people that we have here, like, we genuinely like each other, because you can work in environments, you can be successful and not care about the person, but these are people like I call on the weekend, I want to go to dinner with, and we want to travel together, and we eat dinner, we drink wine, and we, you know, enjoy life. And so the thing that I know for me, I learned from my seat, is very difficult to make life-altering decisions that impact people's lives when you're basing it upon what other people say to you, or you're basing it upon what you read. And so I'm one of those ones, I like getting my hands down in the dirt to be able to talk with individuals. And we have a person here, Karen Murphy, for example, she had been, she's here tonight, yeah. I used to be known, they would introduce me and then I'd introduce Karen. Now I walk in rooms and people say, this is Karen, and oh, by the way, Kevin works with her, so congratulations to her. But she's a prime example. She had been at the Bears for 25 years and had done a really good job, was promoted to Chief Operating Officer thanks to George McCaskey and the family. We made the decision to do that. She was one of only 2 women in the history of the National Football League to hold that position. And so when I met with everyone, I would ask them 3 questions. What if you were in my position, what would you do? Secondly, do you have everything you need for us to really be a champion? And then I would want to know about them as far as like where their mind space was. Do they believe that we could, be a champion? What changes could they make? That's what I really focus on. And so many times you get answers from people by them not answering the question, but it's almost really what they don't say. And I found out, you have people sometimes just simple. There was one time, one of my one-on-one interviews that came across that someone needed just a simple apparatus on their desk to help them be more efficient. It's very simple, doesn't cost a lot, but all the time that they would waste. But I think the best attribute a leader can have, you have to be able to articulate your words, but you need to be a very thoughtful listener. And I think that's what the message was, I think, to people, is that 1, they matter, 2, I'm a good listener, and 3, if you tell me something, I'm gonna do all that I can to make it happen.
Outstanding. Well, that's a great segue onto the business of sports. Before joining the Bears, you led the Big Ten through a transformative period for college athletics. Tell the audience how the name, image, and likeness, or NIL monetization, has changed the dynamics of the game for colleges and also for pro franchises. There are speculation that Caleb had made as much in his senior year as he's going to make in his first year. So tell us how that's changed this whole ecosystem.
Well, one of the things that, and I was always concerned about at the Big Ten, and fortunately we were able to make some positive changes, was the fact is that the evolution of the game had far exceeded the operations of the sport. And so I would always push the envelope to challenge not only people in the Big Ten, but across college athletics to say, these student athletes bring incredible value to these colleges and universities. And as a dad now who has 2 children, my wife Greta is here, who's been my soulmate for many years. So Greta, thank you so much. My big concern is always education. Are they really doing an education? One of the worst things in life is to not have access to something, but the only thing worse than that is to have access to it and then you can't get it anymore. And so the thing that I have concern with the game of college athletics where it is right now is that there are young men who are getting paid fairly. I mean, absolutely, they earn it and they deserve it. But if they're not blessed to be able to play at the National Football League level, then you can imagine going back to a much lesser, income. So my concern is, one, what does it do with all the transferring? Are you getting your education? What are you going to do if you have an injury or not fortunate enough to play in the National Football League? Are you saving your money? Are you paying your taxes? All those different things that come along. What's the pull on you from the family? And so NIL has been good, and it's been good if you have a good infrastructure around you that you can save your money and learn and get your education. But my concern is what's going to happen as we look 5 years from now back is that group of individuals who didn't do that and the impact that it had on them mentally, emotionally, and physically.
Absolutely. Well, let's go deeper on the Bears. There's definitely a new energy and there's a tremendous amount of excitement building around the team and the franchise, and part of that is no doubt the selection of Caleb Williams as the #1 draft pick. But you also are clearly bringing new energy to the organization, and I'm curious to know, how did you find the organization when you joined as president and CEO, and what changes have you implemented to really further drive forward both the culture and the operations?
One thing about it, what you've done in your organization, you've made some serious decisions of, relocating your entity from Omaha here to Chicago. As I call them, these are adult decisions. Well, we were fortunate, and I'm grateful to George McCaskey and his son Connor and their family to provide me, Greta, and our family an opportunity to come here and lead this franchise. But they had a lot of talent in the building and individuals who are here. And one of them, aside from Coach Eberflus, who's a spectacular person, is our general manager, Ryan Poles, who's I just want to just. So I think the thing as a leader that's important is just not to come in and just blow everything out. Sometimes that's the easiest thing to do. The majority of people who I lean on for advice recommend it to do that, but I think there's always trying to get that right recipe and mixture. And you look what Ryan and Coach Eberflus have been able to do. His first 3 drafts, you're talking about 18 people who are in the 5th round or higher are all on our 53-man roster. So he's building a roster of sustainability, longevity, and free agency. One trade with Carolina, you got 5 starters, and we still have another pick next year. So the biggest thing is to make sure we kept those individuals who were here, who understood the vision, who were willing to work hard, who were willing to be excellent. But then you got to infuse it with individuals who come from the outside. Mika Morris, who is the Chief Revenue Officer at the Twins, is our Chief Business Officer now. Krista Whitaker, who's our General Counsel, Chief Legal Officer, was at the Miami Heat, formerly at Proskauer. Young lady here, Tanya Dreesen, was with me for almost 12 years at the Vikings. You always got to have 1 or 2 people who've been around you, because they're the ones who can let people know that I'm not as insane as people think I am on certain days. And so it's a combination. And then folks like Corey Ruff and who were here, Tanisha Wade and Liz Geis, so it really, I spend a lot of time figuring out what the culture, because culture is everything. And you got to have people to really work together and enjoy people. But I had a jump start walking in the door because there was so much talent in the door.
Fantastic. I believe every word of that. Well, our team is on full display in HBO's Hard Knocks this season, which has been so much fun to watch as a fan. We saw the teaser at the opener. Is it true that the McCaskies had turned down all prior requests from Hard Knocks in the past, but this year you guys agreed? Has it been good for the team? How have you felt about it now that we've gone through it?
One thing I'll say about the McCaskey family, especially George, who's our chairman, who has been an incredible partner, it blows me away every single day, and that's why I wear his pen, to think that George Halas, that every time I get a chance to spend time with Ms. Virginia McCaskey, George's mom, Connor's grandmother, and touch her shoulder, touch her hand, that's George Halas's daughter, and this is George Halas's grandson. This is not like 19 generations or something. That's right there. And I think what you'll find out is one thing about George. There's certain things that are etched in stone, which fortunately, probably about 95% of those we agree with, but he's a good listener. And I think as we sat down with Ryan and Coach and George and the family to thought through it, this provided us an opportunity for fans that we have around the world. We got 43 million fans around the world, the number one amount of fans in all the sports teams around the world, 4 million here in Chicago, but it allowed fans to really look into what really goes on at Halas Hall. There was a perception there that we worked like in bungalows or tents, like we didn't have a nice building. And then when people see those overhead drone shots, and one of the things we were very intentional with Hard Knocks on is the importance of selling Chicago and the beauty of Chicago. And so when you see those shots along the river and the architecture and the food and the fashion and the jazz, I've had people call me and say, wow, you got trees in downtown Chicago? So yeah, we have trees here. So I think George was able to really have an open mind to understand this was a chance to really tell our story with the draft picks, with some of our veterans, and really with the history and the tradition of what makes the Chicago Bears a phenomenal charter franchise. And I mean, we have a Hall of Famer here, Super Bowl 20 MVP Richard Dent. I mean, so for us to be able to So to be able to tie all that together and tell that story with those great voices from NFL Films and the narration and the beauty, it was special. And so as we look back on it, I think it helped grow our fan base. Interestingly enough, 85% of the fans who watch Hard Knocks are 35 years or under. And so I'm very focused. Every morning I wake up, I think, how can I recruit fans who aren't even born yet to fans who are literally 110 years old, because that's really important. And so that helped kind of grow our demographics, and it was exciting to watch.
Well, one of the things that in Hard Knocks that you often see as a viewer is drama. Didn't see a lot of drama this year, and what does that say about the team?
We like a low drama coefficient at Halas Hall. That's what we want. You know what I mean? So I think drama holds up progress, and I think what people did see is that we're passionate, where we can be very, emotional and caring, which is important, because when you're emotional, all that means is you care, but that we really enjoy each other, we're focused, we're about our business, and I was glad to see a low drama coefficient, and I think that's why people are so excited about this football season here today with the 2024 Chicago Bears.
Absolutely. Well, one of the other things people are excited about are the prospects of a new stadium. So let's talk the stadium project. We've all read the details of the new Lakefront Stadium proposal. I think it's something like $4.7 billion, $2 billion from the Bears, the rest from public funding. The mayor's all in. The governor said non-starter, something along the likes of that. Make the argument for using taxpayer funds for a private business at a time when there are obviously other needs in the city, in the state, in the county, and give us an update on where things stand on the negotiations with the stadium.
So I've been blessed to walk this journey before in Minnesota US Bank Stadium, which still is voted the best stadium in all of the NFL. And I know how difficult these projects can be, and this is what I would say. It's time for us to be able to, and when I say us, I'm talking about us collectively. And here are a couple data points. One, to have our ownership group commit to over $2 billion in private money. And I'm not being funny or a joker when I say this. I've searched tall and wide to find out the last time that a private entity, a family-owned business, committed $2 billion on a project that would be collectively owned from a public-private partnership. It hasn't happened. So here are a couple of data points that we have to be real with. I love this city. I live in this city with my wife. We live right downtown here. It's the greatest city on the planet. I think it has the greatest, there's no other city in the world that has a beautiful lake, the food, the culture, the music, a downtown, the architecture, the brilliance the multiple sports teams here, and that's Michael Reinsdorf is here, but to have all of the sports teams here. And so the reason why it's so important, you're talking about creating 43,000, jobs. I'm going to talk real as family, because we found out that we did our 23andMe and we're related, so we can talk openly with each other. I was at breakfast at Moreau yesterday and looked out, I saw one crane. So there's 8 cranes in Chicago. There's only 2 cranes north of the river. I'm going to give you some comparisons. Toronto has 211. Wow. Nashville has 20. Las Vegas has 12. And so my concern is, and for people in the business, people in the room, let's talk real money, is that when you don't have cranes, you don't have construction, you don't have new business, you fall behind. We have a 25% open occupancy vacancy here, which is concern. We have a stringent kind of tax base. I respect you for a lot of different reasons, looking at your history and career, but for you to relocate your business from Omaha here to Chicago is really special. There's a disparity between black and brown folks here in Chicago. Just 9 miles from where we sit here today, if you go to Inglewood, 9 miles from here, there's a 30-year age disparity of lifespan for people. So we need to provide an opportunity to increase the tax base, put people to work, to think in Chicago how special this city is. And we've done everything, the city with the broad shoulders. We've never hosted a Super Bowl. We've never hosted a Final Four. I watched the game this weekend of USC and LSU. The Ryan was there scouting. They had more fans at that game than they did the Super Bowl, okay? And so you think about all, those are the events. Could you imagine what the weather we had last weekend if we would have had a kickoff classic here in Chicago? So we're missing out on concerts, multiple mega events, Super Bowls, Final Fours, the panache of the city. It will grow your business. It'll grow this hotel, all those different things. So when you look at it, there's ways you can look at money. You can look at it is that what do we have to give up? Or you can look at it, what can we invest to come together? And this is truly one of those situations that 1 + 1 will equal 100, because if we don't wrap our arms around some of these construction projects, we're going to fall behind as a city, and we need to do more here in Chicago.
I appreciate that. Thanks for sharing that. So you've got the vision, you've got the plan. It's not going to be a bed of roses, but I know you, and you're committed to doing what's necessary to get things done. And one of the things that I've heard speculated is that to secure public dollars, there might be some considering of going in with a joint funding plan that would include other franchises such as the White Sox or professional soccer teams, as an example, if that's what it would take to make the deal. Is that a possibility?
I can tell you, if anyone knows anything about me, I'm all about inclusivity, and just like the White Sox, what they're planning on doing at the 78 is magical. Just think the energy of what a new Chicago Bears stadium here in downtown Chicago would do, and what the White Sox would do to be able to do with their entity. So we have a great working relationship with them. We have great respect for the Reinsdorf family, and we're definitely going to work together to see what we can figure out. I saw Dave Baldwin here of the Chicago Fire. They've done a great job under his leadership and Joe Mansueto's leadership, and the Red Stars. I mean, I'm one of those ones that I'm so protective of Chicago. I want this to become the epicenter of sports, and not only of stadiums, arenas, health, and wellness. I mean, there's so much we can do. Greta and I were able to go to see the Chicago Sky play against the Fever on Friday, and what that's done to be able to do. So absolutely, we're wide open to be able to work with the multiplicity of the different sports organizations, and as I say, people hear me at the office say a lot of the issues that we deal with are champagne problems, and for us, if we can't figure this out in Chicago, shame on us. And if we call ourselves a world-class city, and we want to be a world-class city, which we are, and all you need to do, go visit Paris. And let me ask you a question, is you look at the Olympics. How many people now you think have booked travel to Paris after the Olympics? And when you go to Paris, you figure it out. They had the opening ceremonies on the River Seine, and no one ever would have thought about that. You go to London, we play there on October 13th. There are homes that are right across the street from Tottenham. So what we need to do is stop looking at what we don't have in Chicago. Let's put our assets on the table and figure out what we do have, how we can come together, make this city even stronger than it already is, make it a better place, and create an incredible revenue stream for Chicago and allow us to be the greatest city on the planet.
Yeah, I can relate to that. In my business, if you have a great product, you get repeat purchase, and I think that's exactly what you're talking about. So, now, one person I was talking to made a comment. They said, this is a opportunity to generate $450 million in revenue each year, not to mention the estimated billions in construction revenue. But Lollapalooza, over 4 days, can bring in about the same amount of revenue, and it's more efficient. And it struck me, is that a fair comparison?
I don't think it's a fair comparison at all. And I love music. I'm glad Lollapalooza occurs downtown. But I just think, sports is really different. I mean, you think of all the people right now who are structuring their schedules to get ready for this weekend. There are people right now who are saying, you know what, we're going to go to Mass on Saturday instead of Sunday, or we're going to go to early service, or we're going to go to Bedside Baptist. We're not going to go to church. Whatever we're going to do, we're going to change our schedule. Or there's individuals right now who tomorrow will go out and shop for face painting, who will go out and shop for what brats they're going to use to tailgate on. It becomes a following. You look what the Bulls did under the Reinsdorf leadership in the 90s with all those championships. And so I say sports is a way to allow us to do things that we normally can't do or feel comfortable to do. It brings the kids out of us. And so when I think about now, pulling up to Soldier Field this weekend, the weather's going to be beautiful. And there's nothing greater than when you see those jets fly over and the national anthem and just the energy to pull together, whether you're white, black, brown, yellow, whatever the case may be, male, female, it doesn't matter. And so sports has a way to becoming the epicenter of really your heart and your relationship. And it's amazing, we get a chance to travel around the world. We were walking in the airport, we had a meeting over in London, and somebody walked by and had a Bears hat on, and you just look at them and say, the Bears. And it's just that certain kind of, connectivity. So, and the other thing about it is the construction. So Lollapalooza, I'm all for it. I love it. But there's no construction that goes on. One thing about these stadium projects where you're talking about the White Sox, the Bears, any of the stadium projects, it puts people to work. And I saw in Minnesota, we were able to put people to work, all people of color, women-owned business. There's women businesses now in Minnesota who are thriving because they got an opportunity to work at US Bank Stadium and they've been able to build a business from there. So that's what makes this opportunity so special from a stadium standpoint.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Well, one of the latest developments in the NFL is the whole new view on private equity ownership. You've been leading organizations for a long time. You had an interesting point of view on NIL. What's your take on the whole changing outlook on how PE can get involved in the NFL going forward?
It was interesting. George and I were in Minnesota last week. Ironically, we were in Minnesota at a hotel, the Omni Hotel, at the practice facility at the Vikings that we built there during our tenure at the Vikings, that now in the last 14 months has hosted 2 NFL owners meetings, and people were saying, what are you going to do, a practice facility with a hotel in Eagan, Minnesota? But the vote from private equity passed, 31-1. And, I believe, finance, especially talking to the economic club, money drives the business elements of these cities and these relationships. We will spend the next couple of months really understanding what it means. I try to be an 8-dimensional thinker. And I always say you have to be smart, especially how you take on capital, how you take on debt, how you structure, any of these deals. And I'm always want to make sure that the unintended consequences don't impact teams in a manner that maybe are unplanned. But I'm very grateful that the league passed it. I think it will help valuations. It's a whole new frontier. And I think it just shows how big of a business it is. But we'll spend the next couple months really unpacking that. What does it mean? What impact does it have? and it'll be interesting to watch it over the next course of the year. I mean, it took a couple years. I had a committee of brilliant owners who were together and worked on it. You know, these aren't things that you can just flip the switch on, but we're going to dig deep into it.
Well, that's going to be definitely very interesting. One other question I have to ask you about Arlington Heights. You're the CEO of the franchise. Part of your job is maximizing value of the franchise. Part of your passion is obviously the city of Chicago. You love the city. How do you strike a balance between these things? There are people who make the case that value creation for the Bears could be maximized with Arlington Heights. There's obviously a passionate argument for the city. You've got to be objective in that analysis. How do you do that?
Yeah, I always try to look at it just from a equalization standpoint. Arlington Heights, I love that community. I mean, we have 326 acres there. It's beautiful land. You can actually see downtown, from there. It's closer to the facility. The majority of our season ticket owner base, are up kind of north from that standpoint. And we'll continue having conversations, with Mayor Tom Hayes and Randy Reckless and other individuals in Arlington Heights. The biggest thing is that we need to figure out the tax situation. And again, I mean, we just need to make sure we get our arms wrapped around it. But we still remain the largest landowner in Arlington Heights. And I'm fortunate that we have a fantastic piece of property, and we'll continually work on, because of we're the largest landowner, we'll work on the tax situation, there in Arlington Heights.
Excellent. Well, beyond the new stadium, what is your long-term vision for the Bears' impact on the Chicago community, charitable initiatives like support for girls flag football or flag in general, and how will the stadium support that vision?
I mean, we have Tanisha Wade here, who runs all of our D&I efforts and community efforts. Scott Hagel here, who does the same thing. We really leaned into girls flag football. Now we have teams in London. And when you study the impact of positivity of girls flag football on these young women, giving them confidence, encouragement, teamwork, hard work. I mean, they morph into being CEOs. So now girls flag football is a recognized varsity sport here in the state of Illinois. There are young women who've already received scholarships. And so we're looking to lean into it. One of the things that we want to make sure that we have with our new stadium as we work through all of these issues with our business and political leaders is that this is not the Chicago Bears stadium. This is a publicly owned stadium. And so I visualize, I met some young men here in high school seeing state football championships and Pop Warner championships. There were people who will get married there. There'll be weddings, there'll be bar mitzvahs, there'll be funerals. I mean, all those things in that building just from a public-private partnership. We want this to be for individuals in society to be able to have it. And so I think the more that we can lean into it, the better we'll come. I live downtown, and the only time I go to Soldier Field is for a Bears game, a Fire game, a concert. But that should be a place that we should be able to go eat and enjoy that beautiful kind of lakefront enjoy downtown. And so we wanted to make sure it's an environment that everyone, all the way from youth sports to seniors, can enjoy this beautiful lakefront.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk media contracts. Traditionally, football media contracts have been long-term with few broadcast networks vying for a limited number of games. Now with streaming and packaging and younger target demographic, the landscape's changed. Amazon, ESPN, Peacock, et cetera. What's this going to mean for the future of broadcast networks and the economics of NFL teams?
I've always been focused on making sure that you meet your customers where they are. And one thing I like studying, even at our games or when I'm in airports or traveling, watching even young people, how they consume content. I mean, they'll be on the computer or they'll be gaming, they'll be on their phone watching a game. And I think that's why you'll see even a trend in stadiums that have more open space to allow them to move around, to be able to function from a functionality standpoint. One of the reasons why at the Big Ten we leaned in to the deal with NBC and Peacock is for that. If you look at the playoff game last year between Kansas City and Miami, one of the things that was incredible, one, it shattered records. And from a viewership standpoint, more than even any other sport, professional sport, their game sevens that it shattered records. But the thing that was most incredible about it is the average demographics who watched the Chiefs and the Dolphins in that frigid game in Kansas City, the average age was 10 years younger. And so it was 45 years old instead of 55 in the NFL, which is critically important. Back to me always trying to seek why Hard Knocks, why playing international, trying to recruit kids who aren't even born yet, is to make sure that we can change those demographics. The world's changed. It's not like when you and I grew up, we had 2 televisions in our house. One was in our parents' bedroom, one was in the family room. And when you watched football or any other sporting event, it was what your parents wanted to watch. You went and sat down on it, and you watched the game as a family. But now people are working out, they're riding in the car, they're on planes, they're cutting the grass, they're listening to music, they're doing all kind of different things. So I'm all for streaming, and I'm even thinking about what's the next evolution of being able to, one, control content, create opportunities to leverage it from a financial standpoint, but to be able to meet customers where they are. And you're talking about someone who I absolutely love. Michael Wilbon is here. And so I want to say, we have people in the media who say they like the Bears, and then there are people in the media who love the Bears. And Michael, wherever you're sitting, I just want to thank you for always standing tall for Chicago. He loves Northwestern. He loves all of his teams here in Chicago, Michael Reinsdorf, so he loves them all. But I know he has a special place in his heart for the Chicago Bears. And Michael, we appreciate everything you do.
Excellent. Well, let's talk the team a bit. Beyond Caleb, you've built this team around more blue chip players than many fans have seen since the 1985 Super Bowl Bears. First, tell our members a little bit about what are blue chip players in your eyes. You can name a few if you wish, but tell us, how did you architect this team, you and Ryan?
Well, I mean, all the credit goes, to Ryan and his staff. He assembled a fantastic staff of individuals, and his partnership with Coach Eberflus. One of the things, and I've admired great leaders. I was fortunate in MBA school, and that's why I say there's been angels around me. I was chosen accidentally to be the host for Bob Crandall. He's a former CEO of American Airlines. Mm-hmm. And so I drove him around in my little 1981 Toyota Corolla, and I was clean as a whistle. And the thing I'll say about it, he didn't say anything. He kind of looked at me like, I think now in retrospect, I was supposed to go rent a car to drive him around, but they said host him, so host him. But I asked him a question, and I still remember it to this day. I said, from a leadership standpoint, when you have talented individuals, when you're building teams, what's the best thing you can do? And one of the things he said to me is to let people do their jobs. Because so many times leaders will get in there and they think activity is productivity. And sometimes the best thing you can do is just do nothing, just to be there. And that even goes back biblically, with Job in the Bible. His great friends went and they just sat with him. And so many times we think we need to talk and we need to be moving stuff around. And so when you have someone, and I say it, I deeply love Ryan Poles. I mean, I absolutely, love him. I love Coach Eberflus. They have a great relationship. He had a plan that I believed in. So there's some days I just need to go sit in his office to be a sounding board for him to be able to think through, ideas. And so doctors don't draw blood. And I just think it's important to let people do their job, to be there as a resource. And I always start with him with the answer is yes. And then let me figure out how to get to the yes, but I start with him and the answer yes, because I want him, I want Coach Eberflus, I want every one of our players and coaches, everyone in that organization, that when they wake up on Sunday morning and they're driving to the stadium, that they said, the McCaskey family has blessed us through Kevin with everything we need to be successful. I don't want anyone saying, if we would have had fill in the blank, that we would have had a better chance to have it. So, I do very little from a procurement of talent, but I'm there just as a resource and to be able to talk through different issues and press the flesh and to be able to say that I want us to be excellent. I'm not here to do okay and to say, oh, this is a cool job. I mean, I'm here to win championships, and I want us to be spectacular.
Well, speaking of your senior team and your leadership team, Ryan and beyond, you've built a team that's cohesive, it's high caliber, you guys care about each other, you're committed to a common mission. and you're also incredibly diverse. And the NFL has been on a journey in terms of driving diversity into the leadership ranks of the NFL. You're not all the way there yet, but there's progress being made. What needs to happen for that progress to accelerate from here?
I mean, you just have to be intentional. And we have white men, we have white women, we have black men, we have black women. We have a diverse group. I just believe in the strength of diversity, not only in our executive team, but also in our vendors, our law firms, our lobbyists, Lisa Duarte's, here, law firms that we, work with, and to be able to build is really important. I mean, you look at Suzanne Yoon is on a leading member of on our Women's Advisory Board. I saw Judge Patricia Holmes here, and which is incredible. She's an incredible leader here. So I think the biggest thing is that we need to make sure that it's okay to be diverse. No one's losing out. Is that if anything, people are getting ahead, and we need to give people an opportunity. So I believe in the internship program. We have some homegrown talent. We got Scott Hagel, we got Paul Neurotter, we got a lot of folks here in our organization that have value. So what I try to spend my time on is, because you never know when that one word, that one project, that one idea changes the trajectory from a positive note for your organization. So when I walk into Hallis Hall or walk into 123 North Wacker here downtown, everyone has value, and I'm just trying to get that good word from them on that day that can make us a little bit better.
Well, part of a great team is an empathetic leadership group, and you described yourself as an emotional person. Cut Down Week was last week. I know that was very emotional for the leaders of the Bears. I know when you have your rookies come in, part of you has to look at them as if they're your own sons. And you talked about the NIL and wanting to coach these kids who get money to save it and do things like that. Tell us a little bit about how you feel about your rookies and making the transition to the NFL, in many cases dealing with money for the first time, learning how to be an adult, not getting caught up in the whole scene. Is a big part of your job, that paternal side of it, and to try to get them off to a strong start and keep their feet on the ground?
Yeah, and again, is just setting the organization of, we talk about this all the time, of being excellent, and the major and the minors. Details matter. I told the story to the staff the other day. I was affiliated with the 1999 Super Bowl team at the Rams. I was in the legal department and in player development, and people don't recognize, we had 5 Hall of Famers on that team, a Hall of Fame coach, Offensive Player of the Year, Offensive MVP. I mean, names Orlando Pace and Marshall Faulk and Kurt Warner and Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt and Dick Vermeil. And we won the Super Bowl by 1 yard. Mike Jones made a tackle at the 1 yard line. And we were ahead literally every game. And I remember in my office overlooked the field, John Bunting was our linebacker coach, and I would see him doing these drills, these footwork drills with the linebackers. And one day I even asked him, I said, Coach, are you doing that kind of like in between drills, like wasting time? And he said, no, he said, because you never know when that first step is gonna make a difference. And then you fast forward 2 years later against the Titans, and if Mike Jones takes one wrong step, who knows what happens? And so I constantly think about it, what is that right next step? So yes, our rookies are really important. One of the things that's most impressive about Ryan is not only does he have an incredible Hall of Fame eye for talent, he played the game, but he has incredible empathy. But the biggest thing, he drafts really good people who happen to be really good players. And when you draft good people typically make good decisions, which make them even better players. And we have a rookie school that we bring in not only the rookies, but we bring in their families. And one of the things we articulate to them is, your son, either you're going to add value to his career, or you're going to take away value. You're not going to be net neutral. So either your family unit is going to be a pain in his butt and is going to impact him on Sunday, or your family unit is going to be a support system and you're going to make him better. And we need to decide what we can do, which is critically important. And the smarter the players that we have, they make better decisions. And so we want players who want to save money, who want to be in the community. I'm going to make a call out right now. One of the things we're getting ready to start here that we can talk about, Ryan and I have talked about, is involving the business community and our players more. Create an internship program. So you can imagine taking one of our players who can go during the summer and maybe work 2 weeks, and again, around their work schedule, but at 5 different companies here. And what's so cool about it, we have 37 Fortune 500 companies here. There are only 11 of those companies who are older than the Chicago Bears. And so I want all of our players to walk out of here wealthy men who are healthy, who have a great family unit, who built businesses in the community, and who can have the longevity here. And it's our responsibility to make sure we create that ecosystem that they can thrive in that environment.
You know, Kevin, I hear a lot of culture in there, and we were just talking about diversity. You stress the importance of being intentional. I think you equally have to be intentional about building culture, and your team clearly is. You've been part of a lot of successful organizations, so you clearly got pattern recognition around what makes for a great culture that can not only win, but can sustain. Tell us a little bit, what are the adjectives that describe the type of culture that you all are building at the Bears?
I would say selfless, passionate, diverse, hardworking, energized. We have a high energy level. Love, appreciation, gratitude, history, tradition. And because otherwise, if you walk in a building, if you walk into this room 4 hours from now, it's just a ballroom. You know, and if you walk into Hallis Hall and no one's there, it's a building. You know, it has weights and some art and all that kind of stuff. But it's about the people that you bring in there who can infuse that, you know, energy. And when you start talking about, you know, when people say you can feel it, I say you watch, a lot of these people in here watch sports, you know, what is momentum? You know, can you touch it? It's like the wind. You can't touch momentum, but there are games that you watch and teams down by 28, and then all of a sudden they're down by 21, and it's like they're down by 3 touchdowns, and you know they're going to win. You just feel it. And so I want people that walk in the Hallis Hall, that walk in the 123 Wacker, who meet our players to say, there's something about them that you can feel it, and I think that's what people are excited about. It's like the 85 Bears. You can feel that energy. And the other thing that makes us special is we're relentless. I mean, we are truly in the relentless pursuit of excellence. And we have an opportunity here in the greatest city on the planet at this point in time with a family who has given us the resources. Miss McCaskey is going to be 102 years old in January, who's still living. I mean, to have all that. And, you know, it's been, and I say this lovingly, with all the great players, we got more Hall of Famers players in the Hall of Fame. You know, I take a responsibility that we only have one Super Bowl trophy. We have one George Halas trophy in our lobby, and we have one Super Bowl trophy in our lobby. And that doesn't happen by us talking about it. It's a lot of work. I mean, Ryan won a Super Bowl with the Chiefs. I won one with the Rams. So you know what it looks like. It's a lot of work. Things have to go your way. You need to stay healthy, but you need to have this energy. But I can tell you what, there is no greater place when you can develop that atmosphere in the city of Chicago. This is the greatest sports town on it. And so we're going to do every single day, count our blessings, trust God, be grateful, pull for each other. And one thing about it, once you have a Super Bowl rings, you recognize, Coach Vermeil said something to me. When my first week on the job, we were 5-11 the first year at the Rams, 4-12, then we went 16-3. He said, Kevin, the sooner people realize that when we win the Super Bowl, that your ring is going to look like my ring, is going to look like Marshall Faulk's ring. The sooner people realize, the better we'll get on that fast track. And one thing I can say about this organization that the McCaskies have built is that we really are pulling, you know, for each other, and we have that environment and have our alumni like Richard Dent here. So I'm just excited about everything we have going on right now. But it's a lot of work ahead, and we got to make sure that we live every single day like it's our last.
All right. Well, your audience shares the excitement, so let's get after it. All right, we've got a few minutes. We're going to wrap with a lightning round here, Kevin. So this is a Economic Club of Chicago tradition. We'll throw in some predictable ones and maybe a curveball or two, but favorite Chicago restaurant? You love food?
You know, I absolutely love, every meal to me I eat like a hostage, and it would be unfair for me to pick one. But I absolutely love, I mean, it's like a Last Supper to me. So I love food. I love my wife's cooking. But I've got about 50 favorite restaurants, and I've been known to also enjoy some good wine here and there, and tequila. So.
All right. All right. Somebody told me I got to ask you this. you know, Commissioner Goodell's contract is coming up in 2027. Are the McCaskies going to be able to keep you, or are they going to try to put you in that job?
Hey, one thing about it, and I'll say this. One thing my accident taught me is that, you know, it's even in the Lord's Prayer, give us this day our daily bread. You know, I am one of those people, and you talk to anyone I work with, I live in the moment. So my focus, I'm always where my feet are. I'm focused on the Chicago Bears. I really, and I dream about it, and not from a silly standpoint, I dream about looking at Ryan and Coach and George and Connor and Miss McCaskey and Pat and Brian and all these senior staff, having Goodell hand that trophy over to us. Like, I dream about that. And so I just want to make, we got to get that done. We got to get this stadium. I look forward to the ribbon cutting and event. It's a lot of work to do, but I'm focused. I'm focused here.
All right, well, I share your dream. Yeah. And so given the dream, it's a shared dream, are the Bears Super Bowl contenders this season, next?
All I say right now, I don't know what the score is right now, we're all 0-0. And so all I just know is that we need to put in our work when we go to bed tonight, say our prayers to say, did we put in work today? And I think we'll say, yes, we did. And then tomorrow, have a good Friday and a good Saturday and a good Sunday, and just keep making sure we got 1,440 minutes every day, and we just need to maximize those.
All right. Quick football one. AFC. Other than the Chiefs, what AFC team do you think could make it to the Super Bowl this year?
I have no idea. I mean, I really don't.
Because that's not where your feet are on the ground?
I went from 4-12 to 16-3, so I look at it that it's wide open for everyone. It could be, you know, anyone could be in the Super Bowl.
All right. Last question. Do you want to give us a drop-dead date for stadium deal to be done?
Drop-dead date? I would say when we cut that ribbon. That's the drop-dead date. That's yeah.
All right.
And one thing we got to close with, because at the end of each game, we have a business meeting. We go through all of the per caps and, you know, all the different issues, and we do this Bears clap, and it's 3 claps. And matter of fact, we'll have our staff do it, but I want to hear this room do the Bears clap on it. And so you got to stand up first. You got to stand up. You got to stand up. We got to stretch. All right. So let's start with the Bears folks, and then let's start it. Then we'll bring in the group. So on 3, 1, 2, 3. All right, but you got to get a little bit more. On 3, 1, 2, 3. All right, now let's have all the friends together. So let's show each other what we feel about the Chicago Bears, how passionate we are, and what this organization means to us. So on 3, 1, 2, 3. All right, on 3, 1, 2, 3. On 3, 1, 2, 3. All right, bear down.
All right. Kevin, thank you for being with us. It's been a special night. We appreciate it, and the evening is adjourned. Thank you.